Synduality Echoes of Ada is one of the newest live service fiascos from the company that brought you hits like Dig Dug, where you play as a guy who had a divorce and only sees his kids on the weekends, to Pac-Man and Mappy, the two greatest arcade games to ever exist. So to say when I heard Namco was making something about these two characters that look like scrapped ideas for a Kingdom Hearts spinoff, you know I was hooked. I mean, looking at the two main pro tags, with one being an emo guy who probably thinks My Chemical Romance was the greatest thing to ever come to music, to the counter aesthetics of this white-haired dripped out AI companion who would be the girl you would see working at a Wendy's and never stop thinking about for months after. It really piqued my interest as it gave me Nier Automata vibes. Plus, having the Japanese voice actress for the girl in the trailer being 2B's Japanese voice actress, it really helped push that. I was intrigued by the open world and having you go out in these rabbit mechs and farm crystals and exploring aesthetically pleasing areas and fighting others who own similar robots that are probably doing the same thing as me. Not much really was explained here on what was happening, but I still was very intrigued to say the very least. I wanted to know more about these characters and what stories they would bring. I was also captivated to see what other mech designs I could go out and acquire. Plus, what secret powers this mysterious AI can bring, and the backstory of who or what she is was also really cool to me. More importantly, it's an anime style game from Bandai Namco that doesn't look like the same art style they did during the God Eater and Code Vein era. That being said, after seeing the trailer, I eventually forgot this was even coming out. I didn't even know about the online beta they did either. It's crazy just how little this game got marketed. Besides the trailer I saw a year ago, I only learned this was still a thing because I decided to look up Japanese PS5 games on eBay, and this was in the results. So when I decided to check it out again, I learned it was an online PvPvE extraction looter shooter. Yeah, the announcement trailer showed nothing of the story or characters we saw in the reveal trailer. I mean, the white hair girl does show up, but she's in a list of other AI companions now. So I was kinda confused, as this doesn't look at all like the game I remembered. I did more research to learn that the story and everything I saw was still playable, but what I originally thought was going to be a single player experience turned out to be an online robot game similar to the likes of Tarkov and Rust. To make this clear, I have never played a looter shooter in my life, so going into this, I can say this was very much out of my comfort zone. So there were a few things pushing me away from buying Synduality Echoes of Ada after all of this came out. With one of those being, I had to buy it on PC instead of importing a physical like I planned to, since again, I was under the impression this was a single player experience. The issue with getting the Steam version is because it's known to be the worst optimized way to play this, as it's designed for consoles and it's not hard to tell it was prioritized with that in mind. The menu layouts are a big giveaway on that. Plus a lot of, or I should say lack of, graphic options for the PC version. But no way in hell am I buying a PlayStation membership for a single game. I just decided nope, not for me. I vowed to ignore it and assumed it would be dead in a month, as every review I kept finding was saying how awful it is to play, and so many were turned off by it having forced PvP, meaning anyone can outright kill you on the spot. Plus, hearing that some players went out of their way to buy the deluxe or ultimate editions for $60 to $100, you could play the game early instead of waiting for the release date, with the bonus of giving the player the Daisy Ogre mech, which is the one from the anime. Then learning the pre-order robot you paid to get access to could be lost for good if you used it and died, as that's how extraction looter shooters work. Which is also why this game has very mixed reviews, because a lot of people didn't realize this since Namco did such a horrible job at explaining anything. It just reinforced my opinion. I didn't feel like playing something where all my hard work could be destroyed in an instance if players just decided I had good loot and killed me for it. But as the days kept approaching to release and I watched multiple reviews, both positive and negative, I decided screw it, I'll buy it. If I ended up hating it, I could just refund it before 2 hours went by, and I'm sure that would have been enough time to come to that conclusion. So I pre-ordered it and waited. Upon release, I played it, and while it's not the greatest experience I've ever played and has a good amount of issues, I really ended up loving it, but boy, can I not recommend it. So why can't I not recommend Synduality Echoes of Ada when I have so many hours put into this and stated that I love what I played? At the time of this part being typed out, the huge update coming in February isn't here, so keep in mind, if any of this gets changed, I'll address it later. But back to my point on why I can't recommend this to any of you. It's because there's so many things that I outright despise in the gaming industry that are present full force in this. Most importantly, to get this right out of the way, the game has a battle pass. Keep in mind, this is not a free-to-play. You have to pay $40 to own this. It's not like Marvel Rivals or Fortnite, where the battle pass can be bought for the premium rewards and so forth without any barrier of entry. It legit costs you nothing to get into the game and only money if you buy the battle pass. This means anyone right now can just go and download these two titles and then buy their premium pass if they want, and that's it. The only money spent is for the battle pass. In Synduality, you have to put down $40 and then another $10 to access the premium rewards in a game I already paid to play, or $30 if you want the exclusive character who is from the anime series, plus the addition of premium rewards, as she would normally cost you $20 if you wanted her by herself. On one hand, if you do buy the premium, the game will give you 950 coins from the pass itself, which is only 50 coins under the amount to buy the next one. If you do the $30 deal with the character, you do get an extra 750 coins, meaning if you actually complete the battle pass and do this option, you probably won't have to buy any future passes with real money for a long time if they stay consistent with the coin rewards. That is if you complete it and make it to the max level. If you don't grind your way to the end, then you're not going to get the greatest outcome from this. Sadly, this is the best method of farming the biggest bang for your buck. As long as you never use the premium currency for anything but the battle pass itself, you're still looking at a $70 price tag for everything I mentioned, but this is the best way to go about it with how everything is being offered right now. Now, do I think truly this is the worst battle pass I've ever seen? No, mostly because it gives you 950 coins if you complete it, so it makes it pretty manageable to buy the next one after if you really wanted to. Compare this to Overwatch 2's version at launch, it's leagues better. Now, I wouldn't hate the battle pass as much if it legit was only cosmetics for your Magus, that is your AI companion, or it was all free rewards from the start, as that makes it where none of these will provide gameplay benefits over someone who didn't want to fork the extra $10, as again, this is a PvPvE experience with a system where if you die, you lose everything. So it would be a bit annoying to get killed by someone who paid to have better rewards. Technically, the pre-order bonus was that, but I digress. You can still earn the mech in the battle wait. And this is why I can't recommend this to anyone, as not only are cosmetics in the premium battle pass rewards, but so are mech parts, which now creates a whole unbalanced system for players who don't buy the premium aspect versus players who do. Plus, add insult to injury, imagine pre-ordering for the Daisy Ogre mech at $40 and then losing it for whatever reason, as this game was advertised very poorly to players on what a looter shooter even was. With the only option now for the player to get the mech back is to force them to spend $10 for the ability to get the parts back after you grind your life away. I can't imagine the people who spent $60 and up on this from the start. Plus, even if you do buy the premium pass, leveling up in this is so slow. I played for over 10 hours at the time of this being written, and I barely passed level 10. I just can't recommend a game where the devs are actively trying to milk the player out of their money, as there's times where this $40 game has things that are prominent in a lot of mobile titles you can play. You want to upgrade anything in your base or craft items, you have to wait actual real time for these to complete, or you can pay the premium currency that costs real money to skip the wait. The longest so far I've had to endure has been an hour and 30 minutes. Come on, man. You already have to grind for the materials, and some of these can only be obtained by crafting. This also requires you to wait for the item to be made. It's just so shitty to see Namco and the devs halting any progression, not for the sake of realism like Animal Crossing does, but more for the hope that the players will just pay instead of waiting. I know the argument is you can keep doing sorties, and since those take so long, it's not so bad, but my counter argument is this. This costs $40 to play. This shouldn't even be an issue at all. If this was free to play, I could ignore a majority of these issues, but it's not. I think the biggest and dumbest thing I've only ever seen one other game do is have the story locked behind a grind wall, which seems like a strange thing to do to the story mode. You know, anybody who's sane would be like, yeah, this is a dumb idea, as that seemed to be the big part of the game's marketing in the trailer as well. Namco spent a lot of the time hyping up potential buyers with these beautifully well animated cutscenes and appealing character designs. So it's like they saw how the Final Fantasy Dissidia NT handled its story, where you're required to grind for hours on end fighting AI opponents until you earn enough to buy the story segments from the shop, which concluded in you seeing like 5 minutes of cutscenes to then do a fight with AI opponents, as if you didn't just do that for 3 hours to earn enough to do it again. Echoes of Ada said, let's do that, but worse. You get the story missions from doing the quests the game asks of you. However, after 27 hours, I have only unlocked 2 things of the story missions to do. These missions, while kinda engaging, it's not what you think. You see, I was under the impression I would have these cutscenes play before I did whatever the mission was, letting the player learn about what's going on and then getting to play through these and experiencing the world, while having in-game dialogue between the AI companion and the pretty boy. Instead, these missions consist of you and your Magus, who aren't these two, might I add, going through very linear maps with the only real sense of exploring coming from alternate paths that lead you to surveillance logs. These are the cutscenes. What's worse, the order that you unlock them in seems like it's at random. I ended up getting a very late game log that, with no context whatsoever, absolutely makes no sense, as there's no build up to any of this when I'm being shown the story in this way. At least there was in-game dialogue from the enemies, but because I have no real context for who I am or why I'm here, I gain nothing from these. All I know is that some bandits stole security logs and we have to get them back, with this all being delivered in the cringe Bandai writing I've grown to despise.
Squeak, squeak. Hello, I am a little mouse. How do you do?
The best part about these missions was just having unique arenas to fight bandits in, with some being at night. Getting to also see levels having unique areas or set pieces that helped understand more of what's going on was also a plus, like having torture areas that were used on other pilots, giving a narrative push that these guys have been fighting for quite a while if they're capturing other mechs and straight up drowning them. I just can't understand why anyone on the dev team thought this would be a good way to have the story they obviously worked hard on with the effort it does show be drip fed to the player, and not even drip fed in the right order. These are all the reasons why I find it so hard to recommend to someone when there's so many things that are just anti-consumer built into a lot of aspects. Even if I like how it plays, I would feel awful trying to convince someone to buy it when these are still huge parts of the game at the time of writing this a week after launch. However, the main focus is not the single player content that still requires online, but it's the online mode itself, the PvPvE aspect of the game. The section that either has you ready and engaged or fearing it and why you canceled your pre-order. I can say after all my hours with this mode and going into it with the worries I had about getting flanked right away or losing my stuff for good and having to restart, I think they did a great job with this part of Echoes of Ada. It's by no means perfect, but it's fun and engaging at the best of times and aggravating and poorly optimized at the worst of times. So I think it's now a good segue to get into the main part of this and really deep dive into everything and why I learned to love this game, even if I can't recommend it regarding the previous stuff mentioned. So other than that, let's now hop in our coffin and go to the world's surface and see what Echoes of Ada has to offer. When you start the game, you're given the choice between 4 Magus to choose from. The only thing setting each of them apart is their personalities and voices. I, as any sane person, picked one of the females to accompany me on my journey. What can I say? I'm a sucker for companionship and gigantic robot mechs. The character customization is unique, but kinda bare bones compared to the other offerings and things like Code Vein or God Eater. Granted, those only had more options since they all use the same base, unlike Echoes of Ada, who definitely goes for a different art style. On one hand, a few of these cosmetics are nice and I was able to make a goth girl Magus, which was neat. On the other side of things, some of these can push your Magus in a more uncanny valley look. Super plump lips, lots of blush, and...
Can I do any? Oh, okay. I don't know about that, Namco. I don't know about that one, Namco. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know about that one.
I don't know if I hate the way the Magus looks or enjoy it. I for sure can say I feel something was lost from the 2D to 3D conversion, but I also don't think I truly despise the way all the Magus look in 3D. Just again, very easy to tread the lines of too human but not human enough. You are then granted to give your Magus an exclusive ability. You can only pick one, but all these options will be the same no matter what Magus you choose. I went for a defender role as I like the idea of being able to put down a wall, and taking less damage from explosives is always a plus. Till I realized the wall you can set is less of a shield and more of an actual fucking wall. It bothered me that I wasn't able to shoot through the cracks as easy as I would like, or just being able to shoot through my own shields entirely while blocking enemy gunfire. That would have given me more reason to plan where it was placed, as now I would have more protection while still being able to keep up the aggressiveness. I think they could still allow enemies to walk through it so it's not overly broken, just only block oncoming gunfire. This could have opened up more strategic ways of using your wall, like shield dancing. I kind of look at it like Symmetra's ult from Overwatch, having the ability to block gunfire and strafe between it while still allowing the player to be as aggressive as they desire. No, instead, whenever I set this down, the only real help it provides is the ability to heal myself and leave, as I or the enemy can't walk through it and bullets won't go past it either. The only thing we can do is see it pop up and then go our separate ways. It will disappear after 15 to 20 seconds, but it's not worth waiting for this. You can damage the shield enough to break them, but it takes so much to do, so you end up wasting your ammo. More often than not, I would end up breaking one of the shields with melee attacks just so I could have a way to shoot at the enemy while still having extra cover. I know it seems weird the bulletproof wall is doing what it was made to do and I'm complaining about it, but when you're only given one chance to pick the ability for your Magus unless you have a reset ticket, it's a bit annoying. The only way you learn what anything does is a text box and then using it after it's too late. I wish there was a video of what the powers do when you hover over the choices or something. Also, another reason why I picked the defense power was for taking less damage from grenades. Then I learned how no one uses grenades. I haven't ran into a single other player who has made use of the grenades on me or on any enemy at all. The evil bandits you encounter as well never use them either. I only realized how good explosives are after I played the story missions, which gave me an abundance of them to use, but they're just not worth keeping, especially when they again cost 8k to buy for one. So the secondary effect I have is basically useless. The only time it ever came into play, funny enough, was when I used grenades to kill an enemy and I ended up getting hit myself and survived because of it. That's it. Now, one of the biggest fears I had when it came to realizing this was always online PvPvE was the idea of being flanked left and right by other players and just never being able to do anything. It was going to be so disheartening to build towards new mech parts if players could just grief you without a second notice, which is why I'm sure many people started canceling their pre-orders, especially since a lot of them probably bought this before release so they could get the mentioned mech set. Since again, if you die with it on, it's gone till you earn it back in the $10 extra battle pass. It's why I have never used mine and probably never will. Is that a bit annoying to own such a powerhouse mech but not use it out of fear of losing it? Yes, but that's what an extraction looter shooter is, so you can't be mad when it does what the genre is designed to do. But with that, so far with 10 hours of playtime, I have only had one instance where I almost got killed by another player. It was also after I threatened to take their stuff as a joke. He shot me a couple times, not realizing I was pulling a prank, but didn't kill me. I can strongly say, at least in my experience, this is one of the most wholesome communities I have ever played with. The fact I can randomly just be moving around and get noticed by another player that I haven't even realized is near me, just to hear their companions say, "Hi, how are you?" It's very sweet and something I'm not used to at all. That's not to say I haven't run into players that could be theoretical threats, with one I met having a giant yellow caution banner around his name as it showed me he did kill someone before, but even then he left me alone, so that was that. So if you're legit worried about getting flanked right away, I can say, at least from my 15 hours, it's very unlikely. And that's because of how the game's structure is and the way it will incentivize players to not be mindless killing machines. Unless you want to be sent to the Echoes of Ada version of the Shadow Realm, if you were to say, for instance, deciding to start your villain arc after you kill enough players, you will be kicked out of the association you joined at the start of the game and lose access to any missions or shops they have. Instead, now you will be on the south side of the map and having to scrounge for items and materials, while your only shop now is the black market. You can get exclusive requests and pickups on this side that you wouldn't have normally gotten if you stayed with the faction, but now you do run the risk of being shot on sight. This area will be full of players who did just outright kill whoever they saw and are actual threats. You will have to survive here, with it being a full-on free-for-all for anything players can find. What's kind of cool as well is there's a separate story with its own smaller cutscenes to watch, since if you get sent here, the game treats it as if you joined an entirely new faction. Now you can actually pay to switch back and forth whenever you want, and there is some benefits of doing this, as you will get exclusive items and requests depending on what side you're on, but it will cost you money, which, unless you're like me who was able to get his pre-order mech in another whole set from a player who died and 75% of another one and become a millionaire anytime I want, you will have to do the main online game mode to earn credits to survive. And let me tell you, some of these items in the economy are outrageous. I can buy a full mech set for less than 80k, but a white t-shirt with the Xevious logo on it is 100k? Namco, what the fuck is this? Crafting anything besides health pack and shield kits also costs money, so be ready to shell out for that. Remodeling your base will be a pretty penny the higher levels you go, so it's safe to say your money will be a huge part in this high cost of living. But you may ask if there's any reason to build up your base, and the answer is yes, very much so. If you take the time to farm materials and craft and enhance parts of your hideout, you will gain more storage capacity, enhance Magus powers, a piggy bank that will help earn extra income, and so forth. I really started loving seeing my base go from looking like a Kmart to a bustling Hobby Lobby, which is a place where most older women go for arts and crafting materials, while being the same spot where you can buy Gundam model kits. There's just something about the grind I really came to love, as you could see the benefits of it making stuff easier as we continued on. It's a grind alright, trust me, and I don't think players who say the game is too grind heavy are wrong, but it's something that does reward you if you do sink that time into it. Legit, I would call this the Animal Crossing of extraction looter shooters, since the only way you truly get enjoyment from these two titles is by putting the work into it. Especially New Horizons, that's for sure. Now you may be asking how, as a Synduality player, how do I start partaking in this so-called grind? Well, you pay for it, duh, goodbye. Well, to start the grind, this will require you to play what is known as a sortie. A sortie is when you go out to the world above, which is what's left of the place humans call their own, as everything on the surface was destroyed from toxic rain that infected people with a plague-like disease, which is why we all live underground now. Sadly, living underground ain't free, so means we gotta work for the life we want. Each time you set out, you will prep your mech with the parts it needs to function in a trusty drill. The rest is optional, but you probably want to bring some weapons or health packs. Once you're prepped and ready to go, you can head out with your uncircumcised self into the dangerous world and try to find what are known as Ada crystals. This will be how you get that sweet money and help please your AI waifu. Finding these crystals can be quite easy thanks to our trusty Magus Ada crystal detection system, or ACDS for short. You scan the surrounding area, and if one is nearby, she will let you know on your map. Just keep in mind, if you can detect a crystal and have it appear in your search results, more than likely anyone near you can also see it. The Magus will even tell you if someone is nearby excavating one. These will come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, from small ones with low purity to gigantic spawns with high rates of purity. The higher the purity of the crystal, the bigger the paycheck will be. It makes sense? Got it. There's no real way of forcing certain types to spawn, but it helps to know that the locations will always stay the same for where the crystals form. The only real way to have higher purity show up more often is to find them while it's raining or after it stops. These will always guarantee rare drops, but then you have to deal with all the negative effects that the rain can bring. Now, going into this, I really thought the rain would be way worse than it actually is. I mean, hell, there's a whole Magus power dedicated to traversing in the rain, so you as a player would believe this would be a bigger threat that does need precise planning to manage it, but no. The rain is more of a threat because it makes enemies you can run into harder to kill and do more damage to you. Other than that, the presence of it is so inconsistent, with it usually showing up and vanishing out of nowhere. Most of the time, if it does rain, you can just brute force it with shield kits and never really have to worry about it. Out of my 20 hours of playtime I have at the point in the script, I've only had one moment where the rain was a big threat, and that was mostly on my part since I forgot to pack shield kits. It must be such a shitty feeling to pick the rain ability and learn how it doesn't really help with the rain as much as you would have thought. But then you realize each Magus ability has a secondary effect, with the rain one as an example getting the added buffs, being able to see where the rain will hit on the map and already knowing the size and purity of crystals before you go to them. It's a nice one to go for if you're not planning to be in combat 24/7. After playing for as long as I have, I was able to acquire a second Magus who gave the anti-cradle ability, which allows me to see enemy cradle health bars and even what equipment and materials they have on them. So these secondary effects really are what matters more often than not. Overall, the rain is only really a threat if you just let it get out of hand, which would translate to you putting your controller down and leaving. Going back to enemies that I mentioned before, these will be the second threat you face when being out in the wasteland. These are known as enders. I noticed in a lot of reviews so many people complain about the variety being lacking, and at most you see recolors with more health that hit harder over unique types. While the game does lack in enemy variety, with it just having chasers, gazers, incubators, and crawlers, with a special type of crawler that appears at random and drops good loot when killed, and a parasitic coffin ender being seen around the map, it is something I can agree with. However, while you do deal with them the same way, chasers, especially if not careful, can run up on you and end your sortie, as it only takes 2 of them to kill most cradles. I don't understand how a lot of these reviews just saw these guys and apparently never had a single situation where their life was hanging by a thread as crowds of enders tried flanking you. Either that tells me one of two things. 1, I'm just bad at games and only I struggle with these, or 2, they didn't really play much of this like they were claiming to, or barely did anything with the enemies as a whole. I'm open to both of these possibilities, but when the majority of the reviews are still them using starter mechs and never showing the second map, it tells me they spent 10 hours at most and dipped. A good amount of these never showed any footage of the second area, and on average, this place either unlocks if you kill multiple players or around 15 to 16 hours of gameplay and doing the missions given to you. There is an argument to be made with how grindy this can be, and that I shouldn't expect players to play upwards of 15 to 16 hours for it to really open up, but it's again why I compared this to Animal Crossing. You wouldn't play Animal Crossing for a week and then go, yeah, this offers nothing and it's just me grinding for the museum and bells to pay off my loan, because while that is true and it is a lot of tedious work to do things and, you know, achieve goals, it's the reward of your progress slowly showing from that is what makes these two games appealing. When you jump ship before getting to reap your rewards, I understand why it will come off like it has nothing of value. It doesn't help with the mobile-like elements actively wasting your time, but Animal Crossing makes you wait whole days for things to change, so could be worse. I still hate its here, however, but I digress. I just feel I do understand where the negative reviews are coming from, but I also can easily tell they probably didn't really try to experiment with the gameplay and missions more than just the bare minimum. You probably could get the second map to appear way earlier than I did if you really tackle the missions more and were quite optimized in your sorties. Finally, the last threat you will face out there will be bandits and other players. Bandits are AI controlled mechs that roam around doing whatever it is they do while shooting players who show up in their line of sight. These can and will kill you if you're not careful. Bandits, however, can be detected the same way as your cradle can and will even drop a cargo upon defeat. They mostly have set places they will appear at, so long as you're familiar with these spots, tracking them isn't too difficult. Fighting bandits is when I learned about the game's biggest problem when it comes to shooting anything that can shoot back. Your aiming reticle will bug out a lot during fights, with it abruptly moving to the side or straight down, causing you to miss your shot if you shoot when this happens. I at first thought this was caused by the auto aiming being on, but when I turned it off, it still would do it. I then assumed it was because of how the camera was positioned. My actual gun was probably in front of the wall, but my perspective when aiming made it seem like that wasn't the case. Then I had this occur when I was in an open area near no walls. The aiming is straight up bugged. I don't know why or what causes this, but it has managed to make me take unnecessary damage because my shot decided to have Parkinson's today and fling itself all the way to the right, causing the shot to hit a wall and then have the bandit I'm facing unload 300 pounds of artillery rounds into my barely functioning mech. This isn't too much of an issue when fighting things that don't have long range attacks, but it shouldn't even be an issue to begin with. I truly feel this is one of the two things that really damper the experience of fighting anything in the game, including bandits. The other problem is the poor optimization on the PC version. I heard PS5 users don't really face these issues, but god damn, I feel like I'm running Pal Sonic the Hedgehog at times on a PowerPoint presentation. The game has outright lagged so bad before that it caused me to die on multiple occasions. This was as well my one time experiencing this where Synduality lagged out so hard it caused my stream to crash not once but twice. These lag spikes can last upwards of 5 to 10 seconds, and I'm running a 3080. I heard from people running 2060s having upwards of 10 to 15 seconds of pure lag. This game costs $40 and it's built like a free-to-play while running like this. I had to let chat know multiple times nothing was wrong with the stream because it was that bad. I also don't know why whenever I play this game I legit can't do anything else on my computer as it all comes to a stuttering shit show. YouTube videos lag, opening folders lag, etc. It's also not my PC's fault, as I've run more tasking games on it while still doing other stuff and streaming with this never being an issue. It's finally time to cover the last threat you will face, and that is other players. And like I said, if you stick with the first map, the chance of running into anyone who wants to kill you is very slim, but not 0%. The second map I'll address more on later is where I was hunted almost back to back on sorties, to the point in a 4-hour stream, I got killed by other players more than 3 times. Besides that, there's not much else to add to this, just don't trust anyone you meet. When you're out sorting and not farming crystals or materials, what do? Well, this is when the game will give you missions to complete that will earn you clothes, more items in the shop, and other benefits to making progress. While the majority of these will be go to point A, kill, farm, or locate something and then return back to the elevator, they are usually not that bad and more often than not work into whatever you're already trying to do. I found times where the game told me to go to an area to kill specific enders while I needed to do that anyways for materials they drop. It's very easy to optimize these missions with other things at the same time to make it way faster to get through for sure. Even when the missions don't line up, it never feels like it's so out of the way of what you were originally planning to do. I always enjoy doing the task where it has you go out and find the research spot to bring back an item, which will unlock more story bits in the timeline. I always forget that a lot of these older relics are seen as strange or unique to the people of this time period, while to us, this is an everyday normal object. But to them, some of these are too obscure and unknown to what their original purpose was, as it's been too long to really have any idea. It's kind of like when we find some weird stone tool and question what the use was for, when the majority of these were just dildos, but I don't think anyone really wants to be that guy to mention that. This is why I wish Namco really focused more on delivering the story to the player besides having these random one-offs that happen when exploring, or the dreaded way they deliver cutscenes to the player. It sucks because learning about the hardships and trials humanity faced to escape from the acidic rain really is so intriguing, but you can't experience most of these in a more fleshed out way because Namco's dev team for this aspect of the game had brain damage, I guess. Whenever you finish a sortie, I always like the cutscenes that play of the elevator going down and your Magus all cheering you on for a job well done, with this cool debriefing following after that shows you a full play-by-play of what you did during the whole thing, even getting to see other players on the map and useful information like farming locations and whatnot. The thing is, you can skip these if you like, but skipping them is actually really bad. I don't know why the game never tells you this, as I had to learn from Twitch chat, but don't skip them. Instead, just watch the debriefings at the fastest speed possible if you really don't want to sit through it, as this is the only way for your Magus to remember anything on your expeditions. If you don't let these play and skip them, she will gain nothing into her memory. Why are you not told this? Or if you are, why was it not more obvious? You see, I know the Magus seems to be a pretty divided part of the experience for some, with hearing from people that she's like a worse Navi from Ocarina of Time, but don't get me started on that overblown hate for Navi. She's really not that bad, but whatever. This comes down to the fact your Magus will never shut up, constantly having something to say about anything going on, with the same voice clips being repeated and repeated.
AO search, getting multiple AO crystal readings. There are some small ones too. Ender sighted. A crawler to be exact. Do not let it get near you or it will self-detonate. Crawler down. This is a rare find. Cargo weight increased. Mobility reduced. A gazer has noticed us.
I heard many times people wanting a way to turn her off or limit how much she speaks, and at first, I felt that way till I realized, well, yes, it is annoying to be told the same stuff as frequently as she does. The Magus is extremely helpful because without her, you would easily be killed by players sneaking up on you, since she can hear them way before you can. The Magus can even notice if an enemy has spotted you and is on its way to fight, while even putting a tracker on it. The best addition she brings is being able to add items you're looking for to a wish list. This allows them to keep track of the materials on said list and will let her point them out when you come across it. She's legit pointed out containers high up away from me and let me know that an item I registered to my wish list is inside there if I want to go for it. It's such a game changer with the grinding. She can even remind you about areas that have been known to hold specific finds that you found before and can keep it marked on your map, plus areas you've died at and letting you know to be more careful here. So because of all this, if you were to turn her voice off, it makes the game more difficult and way more lonely, since you really do need a good amount of this information if you want to make it back alive. I see her as if we were in a rally car and she's the reason I'm aware of what paths I need to take while avoiding crashing the car directly into the pit. With that being said though, I still get the hate for how annoying it can be, but with someone who grew up with hearing the same quotes from Sonic Heroes and Star Fox 64 and can recite some of them word for word, the Magus talking is the least of my issues with the game overall. And I like that the player can kind of make the AI companion be whatever you want it to be. Want a friend that kind of does whatever around the base? You got it. Want a Magus who is more romantically invested into you? There's dialogue for that in some scenes. Want to make a straight up sex doll? Ain't nothing stopping you. Hell, in the anime, they address people do sleep with their Magus, so wouldn't be out of the norm, I guess. I think the devs really should go more into this route of actually having ways to build your relationship with your Magus. Like, I'm not talking just from a relationship standpoint. Like, imagine if you constantly ignore your Magus warnings and died or didn't take her advice. So in return, her demeanor becomes more standoffish or a bit more condescending when telling you stuff. I think that would really breathe so much life into them. Sadly, this wouldn't happen, as this would require them to record more lines, and we can't have that now, can we? Now, eventually you will soon unlock the ability to go to the second area, the southern zone of the Wastelands. This place is where the training wheels come off. You felt safe 24/7 in the normal sortie map. Well, here it's very easy to be seen by a player and instantly killed, especially if the player has a bounty. Just go ahead and expect fully that they will end you if they see you. I had sorties die when trying to return because someone came out of nowhere and killed me for no reason besides he wanted to. This is not a safe place, and you will learn that very quickly. This is also sadly where I did see someone just farming people with better gear and weapons, as most players wouldn't have had said equipment to even stand a chance, meaning the pay to win was in full force on this one. I even later saw the same thing happening in the starting map, with one guy having over a 600k bounty. This is kind of when it made me realize that the game does reward you more for actually playing like a scumbag, as you want a faster way to obtain loot and materials. Why work for it when you can just blast two in the back of a cradle and reap the rewards? Now, let's say if you do get shot like this, you can counteract their ability to steal your gear and stuff if you choose to not bail out with your Magus, but doing this will cost a 10% fee of your total money amount to get her back. But it's at least a very fuck you move to whoever killed you. The only drawback to playing like a shithead will be lobbies of players will probably hunt you down for this, and trust me, I've seen it done before. I was actually part of one of those hunts, funny enough, but that's really the only drawback. I'm not sure if you can do this, but if I had a huge bounty on my head after getting all the money and stuff I could ask for, I would just go into the starter mech and let someone kill me so it would reset, if that's how that works. But I'm saying this as if I know how that works, because I'm not entirely sure. It just seems easy to exploit in that specific case. Granted, I do have the ability to just sell a bunch of mechs and in return have over $2 million in game, but I choose not to do this mostly because I find it funny to have almost 3 sets of the Daisy Ogre Cradle, as it just shows how easy it is to lose it. And I already knew if I went this route, I would have lost on the experience of the grind for crystals, as there wouldn't have been any reason to really prioritize them for quite a while. Personally, the southern zone is way more varied, with it having a lava place, a snowy area, and a really pretty jungle setting. It's kind of crazy just how interesting to diverse this map is over the northern parts. It does still have the same issues with not much going on besides what we've already been dealing with, but I still can't deny how more engaging this game feels when you're here, with you trying to scrounge what you can and staying low so the enemy cradles don't find you. Like, I felt worried and really was listening to my Magus to inform me if any cradles were nearby, plus having her show me things I needed to loot so we can get in and get the hell out. This truly shows how intense and rewarding this game can be, even with how stressed I was at times, having close calls as I was escaping just just to barely make it to the return elevator never stopped feeling so enthralling. Having my Magus say we got lucky this time, let's hope we didn't use all of it, really helps enforce how close we were to losing it all. It's kind of like gambling, but I don't have to sell my kidney to pay the debt off. Instead, I have to play a grinding mech game that half of the player bought so the pretty AI girl can wear a bikini. Good on Namco for making sure the swimwear was one of the first DLCs to be released with the game, by the way. With all that being said, that's kind of it for everything as of now. Since the big update for February isn't here, that's supposed to add a new map and fix a lot of the grinding issues and prices for things. I doubt it's going to save this game from being dead in a year, like Minnie and I also believe. But for sure, we will get past the first year if they play their cards right. Personally, what I would want for the update would be a PvE mission with friends. I don't need a map that's only PvE, as I already know how much time that would take. But rehashing similar style missions that these story missions would bring and letting players do them together for rewards would be a better option and more reasonable to implement. Plus, this is a hot take, but I don't think we need an invite system to have friends join your lobby for sorties. The key reason being is this. You know how easy it would be to have 2 or 3 friends go into a sortie together with top of the line gear and wipe out everyone. There is no rank queue or matchmaking based on skill or levels. If this were to happen, no one would be able to stop 3 people in a call that are all coordinating their attacks, as all the randoms in the lobby would have for in-game communication being fucking emotes. I've also seen this done before even without a way to invite friends into a sortie lobby, which is how the guy had over 600k bounty because him and his friends were just spawn camping people. As much as I would love to have this feature be a thing to make the grind less boring, this will 100% create more problems for existing players who aren't being assholes and easily cause new recruits to not even bother investing into it when they're more likely to be killed by a group that they in no way would be able to deal with. I want more quality of life updates, being able to craft more than one of the same item at a time. I wouldn't even mind if they added more time to the counter if you did this, since it's more than one, but in a dream world, the timer would be outright gone. Somehow just make the lag not as shit. I doubt it would ever be fixed for good, but please, I shouldn't be playing in a slideshow mode for 15% of my expedition. Allow us to stack items together. I hate having to put a single health pack and then a 4 health pack, since the game won't just let me combine the 2 to form a 5. This is just so annoying. And lastly, make the story missions easier to get, or just make it an entire new mode so we don't have to unlock them in this meaningless, dumb way. Well, for now, we gotta wait till the updates come, so let's see what it brings. And with that being said, the day of the update was here, and I couldn't access the map yet. Yeah, it turns out even after all my grinding, I still wasn't ready enough to access the new area. Then when I realized the place they added isn't really all that new and it focuses more on the PvP aspect of the game, which is what I already don't like. Look, I did try to grind more to get the new location, to fill my battle pass rewards, to fix up the rotten base I've been calling home, but just being shy of 40 hours and having more people now just straight up killing me for the sake of doing it, even in the starting area, I just couldn't care anymore. Even with the other focus being the story missions that I wanted to cover, I just couldn't care to grind for those either. Don't get me wrong, I did unlock some more story missions, and this one with the giant enemy here was super cool, but I just felt all the joy I did have from this game faded. Now the question is, do I hate this game? Yes and no. When I'm not just getting killed over and over and having to use my money that I spent time grinding for to rebuild over and over, even with them making it cheaper, it still sucks. I like the game though when I'm not having to do that. But it's just crazy to see how much the community went from wholesome and helpful to straight up everyone seems like they're a threat, and the punishment for dying being redo 30 minutes to an hour of progress again. I have to ask myself, is this worth it anymore? I know there's a new update that I can see on my Steam for the game, but I just can't care. I originally planned to play over 100 hours of Synduality or get all the story cutscenes, but I think the time I spent with this is enough. I feel I was pretty fair with the game to help if you want to play it or not. But all in all, it seems everyone is already moving on to their other waifu anime mech game, so it kind of be like that. Echoes of Ada was a fun time. There was a lot of ups and downs, lots of downs, probably more downs, but it was a game I did enjoy for almost my 40 hours of game time that I did put into it. That being said, I still can't recommend it. Thanks for watching, guys. It's time for the Patreon readings as usual. First up, we have Annie, Tofar Love Again, Emiko the Kid, Quality CQ, and Burger Diver Banando. And hopefully you guys have a great night. See ya.